Welcome to the Past in Pictures channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. A patient receives electroconvulsive therapy in 1955 with electrodes placed on the head as a medical team monitors the procedure. The scene shows the method used at the time to treat cases considered severe adult depression before the development of modern protocols and equipment. A baby of about 9 months found alone and crying in a Los Angeles hotel in 1971 is taken to a police station where Officer Pat Johnson feeds her and then settles her down to rest. The child is put to sleep in an empty file drawer, and the scene shows improvised steps taken to give her immediate comfort and safety. 2 young women ride the Caterpillar attraction at the South End Fair in Essex in October 1938, with the car in motion as the ride's fabric canopy begins to cover the seats. The scene captures a lighthearted moment typical of traveling fairs of the time and reflects simple forms of public entertainment. Fannie Mills, who emigrated from England to Sandusky, Ohio in the 1860s, was a small teenager whose weight was concentrated mainly in her legs and feet because of a rare condition. The severe swelling made her feet reach sizes considered extraordinary at the time, drawing public attention and leading her to perform in curiosity shows. A worker in Labrador, Canada, in 1930, stands on the body of a whale during industrial processing. The scene shows one stage of the old whaling industry, now widely restricted, and reflects economic and cultural practices from another era. Some traditional communities follow the custom of filing or wearing down teeth as part of cultural rituals, reshaping the natural form into points or specific patterns. Such scenes usually represent identity, social status, or a passage into adulthood, practices passed down through generations with meanings understood within the group. The practice known as bee bearding involves allowing hundreds of bees to cover the face and upper body like a living beard, and this 1930 image shows the technique in a direct and striking way. The scene reveals how experienced beekeepers use the presence of the queen to draw the swarm. A Swedish flight attendant examines a showgirl costume proposed as a possible Scandinavian Airlines uniform between 1958 and 1959, suggesting a much bolder look than the standard of the time. The scene shows a direct comparison between stage outfits and professional attire. A horse in the United Kingdom in 1940 appears wearing a gas mask during drills held in the Second World War. The scene shows protective measures being applied to animals used in military and transport work and reflects widespread concern about chemical attacks. A New Haven Railroad train crosses a completely flooded area near Back Bay in 1915, with locomotive 251 moving through water that covers the tracks. The scene shows operations continuing despite the flooding and reflects the frequent challenges railways faced in severe weather conditions. Construction workers around 1930 sit on the edge of the 22nd floor of a New York skyscraper, relaxing without any safety harnesses as they play harmonicas and talk. The scene shows common practices of the time on high-rise projects and highlights how casually extreme heights were treated. Several people have old-fashioned fun by sliding over the snow while holding onto the rear bumper of a moving vehicle, a practice once common in cold regions before modern safety rules. The scene shows young riders using the pull to gain speed on their sleds and reflects spontaneous winter leisure habits. A patient undergoes a tooth extraction in 1892 while the dentist works from behind the chair and an assistant holds him from the front with a foot braced on the man's lap to keep his head steady, a direct method carried out without modern support equipment. Anne Hodges is the only person confirmed in history to have been struck by a meteorite, an event that occurred in 1954 when a rocky fragment passed through her house roof and hit her while she was resting. The incident marks an extremely rare event documented by science. The return of Hector Murdoch in 1945 shows a father reuniting with his family after more than 4 years away, much of that time spent as a prisoner of war in Singapore. The scene reveals the relief and rebuilding of family life after the conflict and reflects thousands of similar stories lived in the post-war years. A camouflaged road in Finland in 1941 appears covered by trees hung with ropes to prevent Russian forces from spotting the route during the Second World War. The scene shows a simple but effective method of military concealment and reflects strategies used to protect ground movements. Animal therapy is shown being used with 3-year-old Peggy Kennedy, who watches ducklings swim in a tub while she wears a plastic chest respirator due to polio. The scene shows animals being included in medical care for children and reveals an early stage in using simple, playful stimulation in the hospital environment. In Amiens, France, in 1918, an elderly woman who has fled the war zone sits on a bench beside her cow after reaching a safe area. The scene reveals the movement of civilians during the conflict and their effort to preserve their means of survival, reflecting the war's direct impact on everyday life. In Scotland in 1932, a boy is seen carrying a newborn lamb as he walks through a rural area. The scene records everyday life in the countryside and the constant care given to animals, reflecting traditional methods of raising livestock used by the local population. An opera singer poses with her head inside a large bird cage, creating a visual metaphor for the idea that her voice sounded like a bird. The scene combines humor with a theatrical style typical of old promotional portraits and shows how performers used unusual images to emphasize their striking qualities. A man in Chicago in 1946 is shown kneeling in front of his wife in a divorce court, begging for forgiveness while she sits at the table. The scene shows the emotional strain present in divorce proceedings of the time and reflects how formal legal processes unfolded in a public setting. To win a bet in 1956, Thomas Fitzpatrick took a small airplane in New Jersey without permission and landed it on a narrow Manhattan street right in front of the bar where he had been drinking. The episode, considered extremely risky and reckless, became part of the city's lore, and 2 years later, he repeated the stunt when a man doubted his story. A woman is detained in the United States in the 1920s for wearing a swimsuit considered too short under the rules of the time. Officials confront her on the beach while inspectors measure the length of the garment, and the scene shows the strict standards that were applied to women's clothing. Budapest in 1987 shows a woman picking vegetables at a street market while carrying her baby in a large bag, with the child holding a piece of produce in one hand. The scene reveals practical solutions used in everyday city life and reflects simple open-air shopping habits, capturing a spontaneous moment of daily life in the city. Alexandre Gustave Eiffel appears with a friend while exploring the already completed tower in 1889. The scene shows an inspection of the structure shortly after its official completion and reflects the progress of French engineering at the end of the 19th century. On top of the Great Pyramid in 1938, tourists pause to drink tea while they look out over the surrounding landscape. The scene shows a common custom among visitors of the time and reflects leisure practices during historic trips to Egypt, preserving a tourist habit that is no longer allowed today. Charles King, the technician responsible for maintenance of the clock, is shown working inside Big Ben in 1957 among the huge gears that make up the mechanism. The scene reveals the impressive scale of the structure when seen up close. A man is placed in a basket and carried through the streets of Istanbul in the 1960s. The scene shows an improvised method used to transport someone who could not walk and reflects informal practices that were part of urban daily life at the time. Before she became queen, Elizabeth II served as Princess Elizabeth in the Auxiliary Territorial Service during the Second World War, driving ambulances and assisting with mechanical tasks. The 1945 photograph shows her at 18 doing this work and reflects the role women played in the British war effort. Elvis Presley visited President Richard Nixon at the White House in 1970, and posed beside him in a photograph that seems to bring together two completely different worlds. The scene shows Elvis in a flashy outfit as he hands the president a symbolic gift and reflects a curious meeting between popular culture and politics. Marilyn Monroe visits American troops in Korea in 1954, shortly after the war, singing on stage before a large crowd of soldiers. The scene shows the moral support offered to service members overseas and illustrates how performers were brought in to lift the spirits of units stationed abroad. Fanny Cochran Smith of Tasmania sings into a phonograph in 1903 as she records songs and words from her community. The scene shows a direct effort to preserve culture during a time when the local language was at risk and reflects the importance of the earliest sound recording methods. Sun Valley, Idaho, in 1947, shows visitors gathered for a après-ski at the resort, relaxing after a day of activities on the snow. The scene reveals typical winter clothing and the social atmosphere of outdoor gatherings and reflects the growing popularity of winter sports in the United States. Sister Jean Ward carries out phototherapy to treat newborn jaundice in 1956, using light to reduce bilirubin levels in infants. The scene shows a simple method applied in the nursery and marks the rise of a technique that would become a worldwide standard, highlighting a major advance in infant care in that decade. A sailor meets his baby for the first time after 14 months at sea, at some point in the 1940s, showing a family reunion after a long deployment. The scene reveals the distance and separation imposed by naval service during that period. An electric AMC Gremlin is charged at a public sidewalk station in Seattle in 1973, using a post that provided about 1 hour of power for 25 cents. The scene shows an early attempt at infrastructure for electric vehicles long before they became common and reflects experimental efforts in urban mobility. Max Factor makes precise measurements of a young woman's head and face using his beauty calibrator in 1932, a metal device filled with adjustable rods designed to define what he considered ideal proportions. The scene shows an attempt to standardize facial features in order to guide makeup and photographic retouching. A photograph taken in Kaunas, Lithuania in 1920 shows cadets from a military school marching along Parodo Street during an official parade. The group moves in continuous formation, wearing full uniforms and demonstrating the rhythm of military training of that period, when the city often held public events focused on national preparedness. A couple who had spent 10 months apart reunites at a women's camp in Lahore, Pakistan in 1948. The scene shows a family coming back together after displacements during a period of national transition and reflects the search for safety and stability after months of uncertainty. Two performers from the Bertram Mills Circus walk head-to-head along Hammersmith Broadway in London in 1953. The scene shows an unusual act being performed in a public space and reflects the popularity of circus entertainment in the city, capturing a singular moment from the shows that drew both residents and visitors in that decade. Women of the Kayan people in Myanmar appear wearing traditional metal neck rings, a cultural practice that creates the visual impression of lengthening over the years. The scene shows a custom passed down through generations as a symbol of group identity and highlights the complexity of these traditions and their internal meanings. The Kuba Comet radio television set from the 1950s appears with its distinctive angular shape, made up of a tall, slanted cabinet that holds the screen in front and audio equipment in the base. The scene shows the futuristic design of the period, created to combine sound and picture in a single piece of furniture. A couple climbs into their 1950s BMW Isetta through the front door, a defining feature of the model that opened the entire front of the microcar. The scene shows the practicality and compact design favored in the post-war period and reflects the search for small, economical vehicles. A clown named Charlie Smith visits a children's hospital around 1930 and poses in front of the patients with bold makeup and a vivid expression. The scene shows an effort to bring entertainment into the medical setting and illustrates how traveling circus acts were used to cheer up young patients. A man is shown taking a donkey to work in an unusual scene photographed for the back cover of Life magazine. The image highlights the contrast between urban routine and the unexpected presence of the animal and reflects spontaneous everyday moments that caught the public's attention. A 1955 two-door Chevrolet Bel Air appears with its classic lines, prominent chrome grille, and long, low profile typical of the decade. The scene shows the striking design that made the model a symbol of American car culture and reflects the popularity of bold styling in the post-war years. A vertical parking system in Chicago in 1936 shows cars being arranged on multiple levels by a dedicated elevator, allowing several vehicles to be stored in a small footprint. The scene reveals a practical solution to the lack of parking space in the city center. In a beauty salon around 1960, a dog sits beside a woman under the same hairdryer while a boy looks on and she reads a magazine. The scene shows the relaxed, everyday atmosphere of the place and reflects common personal care habits of the time. A historical sequence from 1875 to 1927 shows women's swimsuits changing from long, heavy, fully covered garments to lighter, shorter, and more practical outfits. The scene highlights adjustments to seaside leisure and greater freedom of movement and reflects social changes closely tied to clothing. An ostrich-drawn cart is stopped by the police in Los Angeles for speeding around 1930. The scene shows an unusual use of animals for light transport and reflects the traffic rules that were already in place in the city, recording a curious episode of urban life in that decade. On a rural property, a family of 6 milks cows under the direction of photographer Alfred Eisenstein. The scene shows collective manual labor in the countryside and reflects farm routines that were essential for daily survival, preserving authentic details of traditional milk production practices. Participants proudly show their tattoos during an amateur tattoo artists contest in France in 1950, displaying fresh designs on their arms and legs as they pose for the camera. The scene reveals the experimental nature of this kind of event at the time. A couple in the 1930s rides a Malvern Star tandem bicycle side by side in New South Wales, Australia, using a design that lets both riders travel in the same direction at a coordinated pace. The scene shows a form of leisure that was common at the time and reflects the recreational use of local roads. A sea and river fish shop in Amsterdam in 1913 displays large halibut prominently at the entrance, drawing customers with the size and quality of the fish. The scene shows traditional sales practices in European markets of the era and reflects the importance of fresh trade for local food supply. An Italian grocery store in New York in 1943 appears with shelves filled with traditional products and a steady flow of neighborhood customers. The scene shows the role of small shops in the daily life of immigrants and reflects cultural adaptation in the middle of wartime. Olive H. Doyle appears in 1920, serving as a member of the Secret Service, demonstrating the presence of women in investigative roles at that time. The scene captures a moment of professional expansion for women in fields that had previously been closed to them, and the setting reflects gradual changes in security structures. The photograph offers a direct example of discrete and specialized work carried out by women in that decade. A female mechanic works on a car engine at Atlantic Auto Service in Philadelphia in 1943. The scene shows women taking on technical roles during the war years and reflects the expansion of the female workforce into specialized jobs. In 1927, students at a secondary school take part in an automotive mechanics class where they learn to handle engines and tools in a hands-on setting. The period records women entering technical fields that had previously been dominated by men, and the moment shows schooling aimed at opening professional opportunities for these young women. In a school shop class in the 1950s, high school students work side by side as they learn basic automotive mechanics. The scene shows hand tools, open engines, and direct hands-on instruction, reflecting the growth of technical education in schools at that time. At the Harley-Davidson Mechanic School in 1917, students gather around motorcycles as they learn maintenance and assembly. The scene shows technical education during a time when motorized transport was expanding, and the setting reflects early methods of hands-on vocational training. Astronauts in 1988 train inside a swimming pool, practicing maneuvers that simulate weightlessness while divers assist them. The scene shows space equipment being tested in an underwater environment to reproduce the movements they would perform in orbit. An open-air school in the Netherlands in 1957 shows students working at desks placed outside so they can benefit from fresh air and natural light. The scene reflects teaching methods focused on children's health in the post-war period and shows a clear effort to provide well-aired conditions to help prevent illness. A physical education class around 1920 shows women wearing the uniforms of the time and low shoes without dedicated athletic footwear as they perform exercises while hanging from fixed bars. The scene reveals simple training methods used in girls' schools and reflects different standards for women's sports practice at the time. A family is shown in 1934 driving from Lowestoft to London on a trip of nearly 3 hours, with the baby on the woman's lap in the front seat and a dog riding in the stroller attached to the car's trunk. The scene reveals travel practices very different from today's standards and shows how little safety regulation existed for passengers. Around 1953, 2 caregivers push a large wicker cart with several small children seated side by side. The scene shows a collective form of transport used in daycare centers at the time and reflects simple methods for moving groups of children in urban settings. Santa Claus stands beside a character dressed as Mickey Mouse in England in 1935, posing for children and families at a year-end public event. The scene shows how festive figures and popular characters were combined to attract visitors and reflects Christmas traditions that were already well established in the country. In an apartment at the Hotel Regina in Simiez, an artist works while lying down, using a long stick to trace drawings on the wall and adjust studies that would later be used in the Chapel of the Rosary in Vence. The scene shows an adapted method that allowed him to keep creating despite physical limitations. A performer from the Cirque Molière in Paris around 1900 is shown carrying out an extreme balancing act, holding his own weight in an almost impossible pose. The scene shows the dedication and technical skill present even in an amateur circus and highlights how the troupe became famous for daring performances. Parisians cross a flooded area in 1924 by walking over rows of chairs lined up to keep their feet out of the water. The scene shows an improvised solution to high water that affected parts of the city and reflects the urban challenges caused by recurring floods, along with the everyday adaptation required by such conditions. Mail carrier N. Sorensen poses in Chicago in 1929, carrying a large load of Christmas letters and packages stacked in his arms. The scene shows the heavy volume of mail typical of the holiday season and highlights the effort of postal workers during that festive period. A mail carrier in Bulgaria in 1971 is photographed by Jako Vasilev as he walks his daily route carrying letters for the community. The scene shows the routine of the postal service in small towns and reflects traditional delivery methods before modernization. At the main building of the Armour Institute of Technology in Chicago, Illinois, around the 1920s, the photograph shows academic architecture typical of the time and students moving about the grounds. The scene captures everyday life at a technical institution that was growing and evolving. In the ballroom of Flinders Street Station in Victoria, Australia, between 1920 and 1940, a wide hall is used for social events and community gatherings. The scene shows cultural activities common to the period and reflects the importance of public spaces as centers of social life. A father in Melbourne, Australia, around the 1940s, demonstrates a skill in front of his young daughter, who watches with surprise. The scene shows an ordinary moment of family life and reflects the simple everyday habits of the post-war period. Among Malamute communities in Alaska in the 1920s, people are seen wearing clothing suited to the extreme climate while they go about daily tasks. The scene shows traditional practices tied to subsistence and the Arctic environment and reflects ways of life deeply connected to the land. Two women in Toronto in 1937 show their bare legs in a public space, possibly for the first time in their lives. The scene marks changing standards in women's clothing and reflects social shifts related to autonomy and urban behavior, a simple but meaningful sign of changing customs in that decade. In the 19th century, pit bulls were often called nanny dogs because of the protective behavior they showed when staying close to children. The historical scene reflects the trust many families placed in these animals and shows everyday pet-keeping practices common in homes of that era. In New York City in 1975, two people walk along a sidewalk in front of shop windows with light curtains as they move through the urban crowd. The scene shows striking clothing from the decade, with high platform shoes and bold prints, reflecting the visual expressiveness that was common on the streets at the time. A young entrepreneur in the 1920s appears with her mobile hairdressing service, using portable equipment to serve customers directly on the street. The scene shows the business creativity of that period and the search for independent ways to work, reflecting how professionals adapted to new urban demands. After the end of the war in May 1945, many men and women had to wait months before they could get transportation home, with some groups arriving only close to Christmas. The scene reflects the massive logistical effort required to move millions of people after the conflict. Although the Barbie doll was released in 1959, the Ken doll did not appear until 1961 as a romantic partner created to join the line. The publicity photo from that year shows the first series of Ken dolls on display and reflects the early expansion of the Barbie universe. Before hairdryers became portable devices, they were large fixed machines that a person sat under, and this 1928 photo shows a woman using a model considered modern at the time. The context shows how salons adopted emerging technology to speed up personal grooming. Custom limousines created by collector and builder J. Orberg in 1990 appear with extreme length and unusual shapes. The scene shows vehicles modified to display style and extravagance and reflects the height of made-to-order automotive creations. Diana appears at 6 years old in 1967, pushing the swing where her younger brother Charles is sitting. The scene shows a simple moment of play between children and reveals their affectionate bond in childhood, offering a calm glimpse of family life before public attention and fame. On London Bridge, before automobiles became common, traffic shows dozens of carts, carriages, and pedestrians all crowding together in a disorganized mass. The scene reveals how urban flow was already chaotic even without motor vehicles, and highlights the slow, confusing character of everyday travel. In Plaza de Mayo, Argentina, in 1920, people gather in front of government buildings during civic events of the time. The scene shows constant movement and architectural elements in a city still developing its urban landscape, in a period marked by social changes in the capital. In Tokyo, between 1900 and 1920, a busy street shows residents walking among small shops and traditional buildings. The scene captures active trade and steady traffic typical of the time, recording stages of urban modernization in Japan, while preserving everyday details that were rarely documented during that historic transition. A 1950s scene shows a woman inspecting the then-new seatbelt installed in her car, revealing the early interest in vehicle safety devices. The photograph captures a period of progress in transportation safety, an initial moment in the adoption of equipment that would later become essential. On Christmas Eve, 1946, a man and his daughter try to hail a taxi outside Macy's while carrying a wrapped rocking horse. The scene shows the hectic pace of year-end shopping and reflects the urban habits of the period, offering an authentic glimpse of holiday traditions in the city. In the Limehouse area of London in 1927, the neighborhood known as Chinatown appears with narrow streets and active shops. The scene reveals the influence of immigration and cultural diversity in the district in a period of notable urban change and preserves details that helped inspire writers such as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Oscar Wilde, and Charles Dickens. A farmhouse kitchen in Ireland in 1910 appears with simple utensils, a wood-burning stove, and a typical country layout. The scene shows everyday domestic practices of that period and reflects traditional ways of preparing food, preserving daily details of Irish rural life that were rarely documented. At the start of the 20th century, a campsite shows simple tents set up in an open area, while travelers arrange their gear and prepare meals outdoors. The scene reveals basic travel practices in close contact with nature and highlights the still rudimentary equipment used by explorers of the time. A pioneer is seen gathering dried bison dung, used as fuel in regions where firewood was scarce. The scene shows a common practice among settlers on the frontier and reflects survival methods tied to whatever resources were available.